The reverse string problem is a classic programming challenge where you're tasked with reversing the order of the characters for a given string. For example, hello should return olleh, and 123 should of course return 54321. And an empty string should return an empty string. While it might seem like a simple task, this can be approached in various different ways, and each has its own trade-offs in terms of code complexity. Now, before we implement a solution, let's first write a skeleton method and a basic test case. So let's just call it reverse string and return the string itself. And for the test case, we'll just use our example before, which is hello. Now, since we haven't actually implemented the solution yet, if we just run this, we should expect hello to be returned. And we have hello. So everything's working quite fine. One way to try and solve this is to see if JavaScript has any native methods to reverse a string. So let's go through the documentation. There doesn't look like to be anything. There's repeat, replace, place all search, but there's nothing there to actually reverse a string. However, array does actually have something, and it's called reverse. So if we can somehow convert the string to an array, perhaps we can use the array native method reverse to reverse the elements in the array, and then again try and find a way to convert it back to a string. Luckily enough, string does have a method called split, so we can use that to convert a string to an array of characters. And then we can use the reverse method to reverse it, and then trying to find another method to actually convert it back to a string. Array does have a method called join, which you can use to convert the array back into a string. So let's go and try that. We'll delete what we got at the moment. First, let's try the split method and test to see if that returns what we're expecting. And we have the array of individual characters. Now let's try to reverse that. And that's perfect. We have olleh, which is the reverse of hello. Now let's convert that back to a string using the join method. And perfect. olleh is a single string. We should actually test this in a few more test scenarios, so let's add a few more test cases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can add another string called whirl, and the reverse would be DLROW. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can add a few edge cases as well. So the empty string should be an empty string, and A should be A. Now let's add a couple of larger strings. Race car should actually return race car. Programming, which is GNIMMARGORP. I hope that's correct. And let's also add spaces. Now, if we run it again, that should all return these results. And that looks fantastic. The time complexity of this approach is big O of n, where n is the length of the input string. The split and join methods both iterate through the entire string, and reversing the array also takes a linear time. We can also solve this reverse string problem without using native methods. We can use the for loop to iterate through the string in reverse order and then build the reverse string. Let's clear our results and try to implement that. Here we have a for loop that starts at the end of the string, then iterates backwards. In each iteration, it appends the current character to the reverse string. If we try to run this, it returns all the results we're expecting, which is great. Now looking at the code, the loop iterates through each character exactly once. So this approach also has a time complexity of big O of n, where n is the length of the input string. Now, while the for loop method does work, there's a few places here where people can actually make mistakes. For example, the let string equals length minus 1, perhaps someone forgets the minus 1. With the I, is it greater than or equal to 0 or just greater than 0? And also the I minus minus as well. A simple approach to this might be to use a for of method instead. So let's clear the results and try that instead. The for of loop starts at the start of the string and instead iterates forward. So the tricky part here is that we have to append the current character to the beginning of the reverse string. Let's run this again. And the results look really good here. This approach is similar to the previous method and also has a time complexity of big O of n, where n is the length of the input string. The loop itself iterates through each character exactly once. We can also use recursion to solve this problem by grabbing the first character in the string and then appending it to the reverse string. We then call the function itself with the remaining part of the string. It'll be easier to show this using an example. So let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will take out 1 and make that the new string. Now we're left with 2, 3, 4, 5. We grab the first character again, 2, and put that at the beginning of the reverse string. Now we're left with 3, 4, 5. And we continue to do that until the string is empty. Let's try and implement this. To get the remaining part of the string, we can use a JavaScript method called substring, which will return the string starting from a particular index. So if we were excluding the first character, we can pass it 1, so it will return the elements from the first index all the way to the end. Now this is going to fail, but let's just run this to see what happens. And we get a whole lot of errors. The reason is that once we start recursing through and removing characters from the original string, we're going to get to a state where we're left with an empty string. And the string at index 0 will give an error. So we actually have to handle the case of an empty string. So if the string is equal to empty, let's just return an empty string. Okay, let's give this one more try. And voila. This approach also has a time complexity of big O of n, where n is the length of the input string. Each recursive call processes one character, and there are n calls in total. Thank you again for watching this video, and if you have any feedback, please don't forget to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see everyone later.